Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Things Brunswick. We have a great show today. We have some very distinguished individuals that are with us today, and people that we are very grateful to for all that they do in this county. So I would like to introduce them, and then we'll get started. We have with us Captain Jeff Beck from the Sheriff's Office. He is in charge of investigations. And thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
And then we have Tim Daniels, who is also a captain. He is in charge of Troop B with the State Patrol. Tim?
Thank you for having us, having me.
Thanks, Tim, for coming. We really appreciate you. And coming back to be with us, we have our sheriff, Brian Chisholm. Thanks, Brian. So we're going to have a great show, and we ask you to stay with us. And I want to recognize my co-host, Todd. Thanks for being here, Todd. And, of course, TK, whom we could not do anything without. Thank you, TK. He smiles. Got a nice smile. We have we are very fortunate in Brunswick County because we have some of the finest individuals who are in the position of enforcing our laws. And they do it in such a way that every individual in our county is grateful. I have not heard one single comment that was stated in a derogatory form about our law enforcement. And you all have got to be proud of that. So I know that you're doing your job, and you're doing a great job. And the folks in our county are very appreciative of you. Captain Beck, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been here? And
Yes, ma'am. So very fortunate to say and thankful to say that I'm going into my 25th year in law enforcement coming up in June of 25. I began my career in Durham, North Carolina at the Durham County Sheriff's Office. I was there 7 years and come to Brunswick County in October of 07. Been very fortunate here. It's been a great environment, great community. Grew up my entire life, pretty much living my summers here, and went to school back in Durham. Actually, my dad, my granddad, and my uncle are all three retired captains from the city of Durham. So I'm kind of just following the footsteps of all I grew up around. I've had a great career. Was fortunate enough to serve as an SRO, worked road patrol, worked in narcotics for many years, special operations, and then through the years I've kind of advanced through supervision to my current position now is I supervise all of investigations to include general crime, property crime, the special victims unit, narcotics investigations, and our special operations unit.
wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Well, it's a lot of great people. So, you can have a lot of responsibility, but if you have great people working it with you and great people as your teammates, it's like being in Brunswick County. It's another good time.
Well, we have had this month some of your great people on the show, and we've enjoyed them very much. They are just wonderful, responsible folks.
They're very knowledgeable, but the thing that exceeds their knowledge is their care. And their genuine, their want and their desire to work and treat everyone here as they would like to be treated. And
right.
It's just overflowing, and it's just a huge follow through every time we deal with anything.
I'm so impressed with Audrey.
Audrey McCrae, Sergeant McCrae.
I have met her. I met her 2 years ago because I started doing a show on human trafficking, and she came as just one of the worker bees in the beginning. And then 2 weeks ago, I had her and the other young lady on, and she informed me that she is in charge of that unit now.
The special victims, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
and I said, "Wow, that's perfect," because she certainly
Yeah,
deserves it.
you know, it's been fun watching her grow, and I know she has some great knowledge. I was fortunate to be her first sergeant when she was in field training on patrol.
Okay.
And then she left me for some years and went to investigations, and was fortunate to come back to investigations to see her grow into her
Yep.
role now as a sergeant.
Yeah, yeah, she's wonderful. Well, they all are, every one of them. And so, thank you for all that you do.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting us.
Absolutely. Tim, give us an idea of what you do and how long have you been doing this?
Well, unlike Jeff, I'm not a Dermite is what we call them, but I'm a Brunswick County native. Here in God's country, I call it God's country, but
This is good.
fortunate and blessed to be with the agency for 26 years now.
Wow.
Started out, I'm a native, but I did start out in the Alamance, Orange County area, and been on the road for the most part, besides the four years I spent at the training academy doing some training up there. So 26 years, and most of my time has been spent out on the roadways throughout the various parts of the state throughout my advancement. Like Jeff, this is, like you said earlier, Brunswick County is a very unique
It is.
place. Community is very supportive of law enforcement, which is that's an awesome task, especially compared to some other areas throughout the
Yeah.
state and throughout the country. I mean, the support here in Brunswick is phenomenal, and the community support is like never seen. So some of the challenges here is a lot different than some of the challenges in other places.
Right.
But, again, just glad to be here and glad for you to take the time to have us here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, Tim. And 26 years. Wow. Now, is 30 years the length of your
For retirement.
before you can retire, or is
30 years is normally the goal.
okay?
Like some people might like Sheriff Chisholm got Mike Allen that probably want to do 60 years, 50 years, but
That's right.
normally 30 years is the goal, you know. I mean,
Okay.
30 is normally when people retire out, phase
Okay.
out at 30, and that's the
Is that
normal.
what you're working towards?
Yeah, I'm working toward that.
Yeah. I think
shouldn't-
you've got a whole lot of other stuff left to do.
Yeah, a whole lot of other stuff, and like I said, and like you said earlier, I am the Troop B commander, in charge of the southeast corner for the troopers. That's about 200 plus personnel that fall under
Wow.
me. And like Jeff said, I mean, being a leader is having a carriage, but if you have a good support team,
Sure.
I mean, it's a great thing, you know. Being up there, I know I'm the troop commander, but I always say I don't run the office. The ladies in the office really run it, just like at home. But
Just like
yeah, just at home, like home. So, but you know, when being in the leadership role, I mean, it's like you said, we're a team. It's not about I. You know,
That's great.
you know, all the successes go to the guys. All the failures, I'll take the blame. So, and that's just what leadership is, you know. You want the guys and the girls to take all the wins, but I'll take the losses, and we'll go from there.
You do great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for what you do for everyone, and thank you for being here. Brian, you know, we didn't have a chance for you to tell the folks exactly how you started and a little bit about in between then and becoming the sheriff.
All right, so
Okay, thank you.
I'll kind of go through what I tell everybody whenever I speak in front of groups. Don't hold this against me. I was not born here. I was actually born in Connecticut, but that's because my dad was in the Navy.
Oh my
So
gosh, you're a Yankee.
he was stationed on the nuke subs. So I was actually born on the base in New London.
Mm-hmm.
I was there between 78 when I was born in 1980, and then we moved straight to Brunswick. So I don't remember anything about Connecticut. I've never been back. There's 5 kids in my family. Myself and the brother right below me, we were both born on the base, and then we got here as quick as we could. So that's what I can tell you. So the rest of my siblings, they were born and raised here. My wife was born and raised here, so this is home for me, Brunswick.
Yeah.
Started off with the sheriff's office in 2004, started on the road like most people do, and I was very fortunate enough to make K-9 about 7 months in. I was dedicated and headstrong, and I knew I wanted to work with dogs and narcotics. So I got into the K-9 unit. I did the K-9 unit for 10 years. I worked in special operations, and that was a good portion of my kind of patrol. When I first started as a K-9, I was on a shift, taking calls just like everybody else. And then when Ingram came in, he created a special operations unit. So we were tasked with basically any problem that he had that needed to be dealt with, he sent us. One of the big problems back then was the open-air drug market. So he tasked us with smashing them and pushing them back into the houses so the narcotic guys could do their investigations and make the big cases. So had a lot of fun. Did that for several years, and then things started falling into place and started getting into supervision. And while I was in the special operations unit, I think I made it up to, sergeant. Yeah, it was sergeant. And Sheriff Ingram at the time decided I want to create a new position on patrol, a first sergeant, and put a first sergeant on every single shift. Oh. So he asked me to come out of special operations and go back to patrol. Did that for several years, started moving up, made lieutenant, had patrol, had civil, had warrants, had SROs and bailiffs as a new lieutenant. So moving on up, I got promoted to captain. Still sticking on the uniform services side, which is what all that is. You've kind of got uniform services and then investigations at the sheriff's office. So made it all the way to major, still in uniform services. So I got my hands into every single thing on the uniform services side. And then Ingram decided to make a switch with myself and one of the other majors and threw me over in investigations and narcotics like Jeff. So did that for a year, and then was lucky enough whenever now Representative Miller retired, I took his spot, and then I was fortunate enough when Ingram decided to retire that I was appointed to take his and finish his term as sheriff. But I have had my hand either worked in every division or supervised every single aspect and division of the sheriff's office over my 20-year career.
So Tim did too, didn't you? So you guys, I think all 3 of you have kind of worked yourself up through the ranks. That makes a very good law enforcement officer.
Well-rounded.
Yes, because you've done a little bit of everything. Don't you think so?
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, and especially with as many facets there at the sheriff's office, people don't realize the amount of just different tasks and duties, whether it be from gun permits to child custody orders to a 911 call to a DWI arrest to a drug investigation to unfortunately a homicide, and the courts, people don't realize that the courts are ran by deputies, the schools, there's a deputy in every school in this county.
And the kids love
and
them.
the community college, there's SROs there. So in order to learn and know how to assist everybody in day-to-day operations, you have to have at least some experience in each portion of it.
And we take it a step further because we also have our telecommunicators, our dispatch center. That's housed in the sheriff's office, which is not every sheriff's office has that. And then we also have animal protective services, which is also housed in the sheriff's office. So
I wonder
between the sheriff's office, detention, courts, APS, and telecommunications, that's everything that we house at the sheriff's office.
So the people that work at the 911 calls, are they actually part of you?
Yes. They fall under the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Yep. And so do animal protective services.
Wow. See, I did not know that. I wondered about it, but I thought maybe the 911 calls.
And just like Captain Daniels and Captain Beck said, we are very fortunate that we have a lot of dedicated men and women that we get to work with every single day, which makes it easier. Couple that with the fact that we have great citizens. Couple that with the fact that we have a great working relationship between the sheriff's office, the PDs, the highway patrol, your state and federal partners. We have good relationships here that we've built over many, many years.
Right.
So it makes it easier for us.
Yep.
we have those connections, we have those resources we can reach out if we need, and we all work together and communicate. That's why Brunswick County is so unique, and that's why Brunswick County is so
Absolutely.
successful in law enforcement.
Yes, I've lived in a lot of different places, and there isn't another one that I can think of that they have this type of communication among themselves or the rapport that they've established. And I mean, it's incredible here. It's so different, and it's wonderful.
Very fortunate.
We are very, very lucky people.
And we are, like Sheriff said, we are. You know, I travel a lot of different counties and even throughout the state. So this is definitely one of the best place. I don't say
Yeah.
one, in my opinion, the best place,
Well-
especially with
Which is why we all
partnerships
live
and
here.
relationships.
Well, let me tell you, last year, I keep forgetting. Anyway, I was driving home from a meeting here, okay, and I hit a deer, and I was driving a friend's car. Anyway, so I knew that my friend had insurance, and I knew that I would have to call a police officer and report it in order for him to get the insurance to pay for the damage. So somebody came along and he stopped, and I asked him if he'd please call 911 and tell them where I was and everything. Before I was told that it had to be a trooper, okay, because it was on Old Ocean Highway. And they said that was their jurisdiction and they would have to be the one to do the report. So I said, that's fine, whomever, I don't care. But between the time that he called and the trooper came to take the report, I had the sheriff's office and I had fire department. I mean, all these people knew me, but they all came. And they wanted to know if there was anything they could do, and was I okay?
That's the main thing.
It went out over the radio, I guess. So, because some of the guys in the Bolivia Fire Department showed up and said, "Mary, you all right?" But I thought, wow, this is so cool, because everybody knows everybody, and they're all here, and it's like, it makes you feel really good about your community. So I thought that was unusual. That was quite a story.
Well, we share very common stories, in the day-to-day that we have. Like I said, I come from Durham, densely populated, large office, and come down here in, 2007 and went straight working road patrol. And I was, at the time, our road patrol shifts were only 7 people, so that just shows the growth that we've had since 07 to 25, how much squads have grown.
Right.
So you have 7 people, that includes your supervisors, covering this whole county. I'm working the south end of the county, out towards the Ash, Longwood area, and I get an armed robbery at a store. And I knew good and well that there was no backup anywhere near. My closest backup was most likely Charlotte. I get there, I get on scene. Unfortunately, I had to have 2 people at gunpoint inside the store, and the next thing I know, here comes a gentleman that I've never met before. He's got workout clothes on, driving his personal truck. It's Captain Daniels. And he comes in there, and he's like, State Highway Patrol. And he's standing in the store out on 130, and I'm thinking, this is some good stuff. I'd never seen this, and we went in, and, he waited till my folks got there and went about his business. But when it was very small and very rural, and we didn't have the manpower that we have today, we all relied upon each other.
Of
Highway
course.
Patrol would help us with our calls. We would stand by and help them with accidents. I mean, there was just it was kind of no lines. Everybody was in there, and it's still the same way. I mean, when I was the lieutenant over road patrol, I could call the highway patrol lieutenant that was in charge of this area. I could call his cell phone and talk to him like I could anyone else and get any assistance, any help that I needed. So, we keep hitting that same point, the uniqueness, the specialness, and that's really what this place is. And
Yep.
until you've experienced it outside to come back into it, it's a total.
You're
It's
right.
something that's really not understandable unless you've been a part of it.
Absolutely. Yep. You're right. And a lot of the folks that work law enforcement here are from here. and a lot of them went to school together. And Stevie Lanier, okay, I've known him forever, So he used to haunt me when I worked the store. I used to have to chase him away. And then look at the wonderful person that he grew into, and everything that he did, and everything he went through. And, that says something for folks here.
It's nice to. One of the first questions I ask whenever I see somebody's application come across my desk is, where were they born?
Yep.
And how long have they been here?
Yep.
Now, I missed out on 2 years. I'm sorry. I'm 40.
You were a baby.
I'm 46 now, so 44 years. But, I want to know if we've got those ones that are from here, invested here a long time, that definitely makes me feel better about hiring them, because they've got a vested interest in this community and the citizens. So it's definitely nice to see those ones that have been here a long time or are born and raised here come across my desk and want to be in law enforcement, because it's so tough now trying to get people to join the profession.
I know. So let me ask you something. Have you hired folks that have moved here from other states?
Oh, yeah.
That are say that they were in law enforcement in another state?
It's funny. A good portion of the people, when they say they moved here, most of them vacationed here a lot when they were younger.
Right.
So they know a lot
Yeah.
about it. So they are kind of vested a little bit. So it's funny, the ones that haven't lived here a long time, they've all vacationed here for many, many years. But yeah, we do hire people from out of state. They don't necessarily have to be from here. And we have a lot of people wanting to move to this part of the part of North Carolina.
But they now live here.
They-
So
yeah.
and
Oh,
they,
yes.
and they come up and they need a job.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, that's interesting. So, Tim, tell me, you are over a great deal of people. 200, is that what you said?
It's 200 plus.
Wow, that's a lot of people to be responsible for. So, what do you find? Are most of them local, or?
We get a variety, but like Sheriff said, if you get individuals applying that has a vested interest, especially where they're coming from, they're more apt to stay. If you get somebody from up north, they may come for a couple of years, but their family dynamic, especially, see this over here in Onslow County, part of the area I cover. They come out the military, they'll stay a couple of years, and their family's not here. So they'll migrate back to New York. I see that a lot from New York. They want to get back close to family. So it does make a difference if you have a vested interest in the area. As you say, law enforcement in general, it's challenging, have some challenging times right now. You have, society or whatever the systems, they are trying to put more on let's put it away, some of the laws that the politicians have changed or did whatever.
I know.
Some of the, not saying necessarily here, but some of the areas that they have actually made it tough, because
very.
some of the, I don't say here, not here is not a problem, but some of the areas when certain people.
Defund the police.
Yeah, that defund started the movement, but when certain folks are trying to prosecute the officers, go so heavy-handed when they have to make split-second decisions.
I know.
That makes it tough for you to go out and recruit individuals to come into your agency. I know people talk about what are some of the challenges for law enforcement, and I know people harp about recruitment, and I always say recruitment is a challenge, but nowadays society or the social norm is that law enforcement are mental counsels. They got to solve the homeless problems. The list goes on, and yet society want law enforcement to solve those problems, but they don't put the resources that it requires.
Yeah.
So you got these resources here, but you have all these challenges out here that's being created. So, yeah, I know one of the big topics of challenge is people say recruitment, but I always say, recruitment is one, but retention is very vital too. The people you have, you want to definitely keep those. So let's not get so focused on recruitment till we forget the people that's actually there that you're actually
Right.
investing in it to keep them. So
Well, it's gotten worse.
yeah.
Let's face it, in the last 5 years,
So
it has gotten considerably worse as far as not here, but in other areas, as far as supporting law enforcement. I cannot get over the fact that people expect you guys to make a decision in 2 seconds, okay? You must do it, you must stand behind it, and as soon as it's done, they're reprimanding you because you didn't do it right.
yeah, that is
according to their standards.
I know, and I can't understand.
Well, and that's where they politicize law enforcement. And they
Yeah.
need to get out of. There doesn't need to be any politics in law enforcement. The laws are written.
no.
Congress takes care of the laws, whether it's the state or federal, and you folks enforce the laws. And that's all that needs to be said about it. This, I can't get over the abuse our law enforcement has taken.
Nor can I.
And it's
know.
not justified. Are there bad officers out there? Absolutely. There's bad people in every profession out
But
there.
it's not a big
But-
thing. They
Yeah.
made it a big thing
Right.
when it isn't. And that really irritates me.
Yeah.
And that movement started back, and we're not all, whether you agree or disagree with what happened to George Floyd, but that defund movement started. And now what
Yes.
they did, they threw all law enforcement into a big basket and say,
Yep.
this is the whole
All of
group,
it.
and this is what they all do. And the way you used to do, they call it choke holes, but we don't do choke holes. It never was a practice to do choke holes. But anyway, they started changing the use of force, rules and engagements, and it became a national-wide trend for a knee-jerk reaction. But they throw us all in the basket like we're these vicious
You're
individuals.
right.
But
You
we're,
are right, Tim. That's exactly what they do.
we're out here to help. So when a doctor messes up, we don't take all the doctors and throw them
No,
in a pool, or
that's
a
right.
lawyer or whoever. We don't throw them in one basket and say they're all. But that's just something that.
It created a
it
political
created-
advantage for
But
politicians.
again, I emphasize here in Brunswick County, we have a very supportive community.
You do,
And we don't
yes.
have those issues, but some areas, again, are not like that. And
Right.
they have created
And
that
I think that
situation.
we have a supportive commission with our county commissioners and those folks that work in those capacities, because I think they do support you.
And we've got law enforcement agencies in this county, PDs, and I know the Highway Patrol is out and about. Sheriff's Office has our impact. So we're out in the community trying to educate, trying to be transparent. Yes, there's only one perfect person.
Yeah.
We're going to make mistakes.
Really?
But if we're transparent about it and we're in the community, people shouldn't see law enforcement just when there's a bad situation. They shouldn't see, their kids shouldn't see us just because their parents have a domestic.
Exactly.
Or they should see us on a positive note as well, which is what we've worked really hard for in law enforcement over the last 5, 8, 10 years. Community policing. When we first started, and I know Jeff can contest to this, when we first started, community policing was what we used to do. We would sign up for overtime, and we would go out and hit certain bad areas of the county. That was community policing. Now, what's community policing? That's us actually in there, in the communities, interacting with them on a positive note.
Right.
It has completely taken a whole turn. But the original, when I first started, community policing was, okay, we've got 10 slots here, we've got a problem over here, you sign up and y'all go work this problem. That was before our special operations unit. So that's what community policing first, that's how I was first introduced to it. And I don't know if did we have that when you?
We did.
Yeah. So now community policing is actually us interacting with the public on a positive note and getting what we can and can't do out there. Our Citizens Academy, all of our programs.
Right.
It's being in the community and creating a positive interaction versus a negative interaction.
The only thing I remember from then that was positive is I can see Todd carting around his Dare products.
Oh yeah.
And he'd go to the schools and he'd come to the functions and he'd set up and he had his Dare program.
But that's all.
And-
That's all there was at that time.
I know.
It was Dare,
but it
and
made
that
a
was it.
difference
Oh, yeah.
too. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. That's all there was.
We have grown so much as law enforcement.
Yes.
Like the captain
Yeah.
said, we are responsible, it seems like, for every single problem.
Yep.
And to our detriment, we want to help you with, if you call us, we want to help you with every single problem. So that's kind of how we probably became the catch-all. But we got to be counselors. We got to be, I mean, we get calls coming into the center for law enforcement for a water main break or cold weather. So, I mean, we are that catch-all. But again, like I've said in earlier shows, we took an oath to serve and protect, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I don't get is that the folks that think they know how it should be done, and this is what's happening, they are allowed to do that, where I don't think for a long time they weren't allowed to say or speak that, I mean, things have changed. Our society has changed. Our
The bad thing right
communities.
now is with social media, everybody has access
Yes.
to what everybody's interpretation of something is. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
if we are all 5 of us are sitting at home and we watch a little clip that you may have sent out but doesn't tell the whole picture,
Right.
it gives you just what they want you to see,
Right.
and then everybody makes their opinion about it, and they don't have all the
Exactly.
facts.
No.
Exactly.
Social media has allowed that. It's unfortunate. Social media can do some really good things. It can do some positive things.
But it
We-
can
Well, and
also do
unfortunately,
some
it's not
very
just
bad
social media.
things.
Some of our network media and print media are bad for that. They won't put all the facts in there because it doesn't fit their narrative, and that's sad. And that to me, that does all of you a disservice.
Well, that's why we have things like our app
And
that
I
we
love that
utilize
app.
so
I
we
love that
can
app.
set the narrative
Yep.
and get all the information out there.
I know
Yeah.
Miss Mary hit it on the head. Society throws out a lot of problems, but I know if Jeff and Sheriff and management, just like one of their subordinates, come to you, you throw out a lot of problems at us. But what's your solution?
Exactly.
You throw a problem at me. I know what I would do, but no, what's your
Yeah.
solution? What will you do about it? And we can agree that good idea or not, but society
Well,
throw a
the
lot
thing-
of problems, but no solutions.
What they forget, Tim, is that you are trained. You have been trained to deal with this. They have not. They have not been, yet they have the solution, or think they do. And then they go on social media and they put out their solution, and they get a following of those folks who think they're right. Okay? And it just escalates from there. It goes crazy.
It's funny because back about 3-4 years ago, it was right after the Floyd riots and all, they took a couple of politicians and they were doing like a reenactment of trying to catch a fugitive. And they had to go in between the different vehicles and all and determine who was the criminal and who wasn't. And they had to shoot accordingly. And they went through it, and every one of them failed miserably. They were either killed or they killed somebody who was not who they were looking for and all. And they were like, never thought about how fast you have to make that decision.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Because they have to make a
until you're
snap
in that
decision.
situation, you don't realize. I mean, it's easy for me to say, somebody breaks in my house at 2 o'clock in the morning, chances are they're eating lead. Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is grab my gun. Do I really have enough nerve to pull the trigger? Am I going to pull it at the right time? Has he already got a drop on me? There's all these things that nobody thinks about, but you're supposed to predetermine all that beforehand, somehow. When y'all figure out how to do that, please let me know.
Thankfully, in Brunswick County, I think there's probably about a 1% of people that may not like law enforcement. For the most part, we've got great support here in Brunswick County. So,
I would totally agree. Through all these trying times that the nation had, You know, if you look at mass media is a business. They're there to sell. You have to understand that. I think there's a lot of very educated citizens out there that understand that.
Right.
And so they do a great job making the majority, or excuse me, the minority, the majority. But in that time, and I think both of these guys here with me could attest to it, when all these trying times were going, when all these riots were going on, when all the bad stuff was, we were traveling, going to these riots to help other agencies.
Right.
So we were seeing that stuff. But we were coming back here, and it was like the amount of people that said, I appreciate your service. Thank you. The number of people who would get a door for you at a convenience store, would try to buy you a drink, would try to buy your lunch. It was absolutely overwhelming. I mean, and it was to a point where you truly knew you were appreciated because you watched mainstream networks and you saw the negative side. And you know, as younger law enforcement officers, it was our job to go back to those folks and keep their spirit up, keep their chin up, let them know this isn't how it is. But, you know, fortunately, it wasn't a hard job to do because everybody in this county was doing it for you.
That's
and
great.
and you know, I would see it. I would see the doors open. I would see kids come up and want to get their picture taken, you know, with deputies, with highway patrolmen, with local, you know, police departments. And it's really different. So it's unfortunate that you have to sell something.
I know.
But that's what they have to do. They have to sell a story. And, you know, we have to understand that. But on the flip side, there's a whole lot of people that truly appreciate every person that serves
Right.
in this county, this state, and this nation.
Yeah. And on that note, folks, we want to take a break and pay some bills. So please come back, join us for more conversation with our law enforcement. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, Attorney at Law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back to All Things Brunswick. This evening we have our awesome law enforcement. We've got local and state with us today. We were talking in the break about issues that, you know, are evolving here. What kind of issues are you dealing with?
So I'd say locally, with the investigative side, any type of scam, if you're receiving a phone call from a Brunswick County deputy where this new, I believe it's IR or the new thing coming on where they can basically take your voice and take it over.
The AI?
AI, there you go.
AI.
I'm definitely not up to the social media
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But, you know, they actually, one time before, it was my voice from my voicemail, but it was me calling saying that you have an outstanding warrant. In order to get this warrant paid off, you need to pay X amount of dollars. Contact Lieutenant Beck at the time.
Oh my
and
gosh.
you spoke of Steve Lanier. Steve Lanier was my major, and Steve sends me a voicemail, and he was like, "So what are you doing on your days off now?" And I'm thinking, I have no idea. Definitely not this. So anything like that, you're not going to get a call from any local law enforcement agency asking you for money or asking you to send money to get out of a warrant or to find out that you have a warrant or that you have failed to show up or any of that. That's not going to happen.
No
So
federal
how many-
agency will do it either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and how many people realize that?
Unfortunately, we investigate quite a few of those. There's a lot of them that come across the table. Detective White and Detective Mullis were with you before, and those are the two, detectives that are assigned those style cases at our office. And
Right.
unfortunately, they work with a whole lot of stuff. And then any type of scam, if somebody calls you from an overseas number, or you can, international number, and they're basically, if you'll send us $5,000, we'll send you $10,000, and then you'll send this money. And basically one of those Potsy schemes where it grows and grows and grows and grows, that stuff isn't real. None of that is real. That's pretty much phishing, that's spam. They're just trying to get your information. Providing any personal information to an unknown subject over the telephone, social security numbers, date of birth, routing numbers, account numbers. Stay away from all that stuff.
If you have a question about anything like that, you can call the sheriff's office and we will gladly walk you through it. But here's a good rule of thumb. If it sounds too good to be true,
It usually is.
it usually is. It's very easy.
And if they initiated it first, be suspect.
Yeah.
Sure. The best thing to do is, most of us use our cell phones now. You have a number, take the number down, call us, let us know. Most likely we're not going to get anybody back at that number. I've made a few return calls, from calls I've got at the office, and, you get no answer back. But, call us, report it to us, let us know what's going on, because like the sheriff has said many times, as soon as we get a reoccurring theme of this, he immediately pushes that out to Facebook, to the app, to everything. That way, hey, this is going on. Don't respond to it. Don't acknowledge it. Stay as far away from it as you can.
Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot of scamming. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well,
A third of our population is 65 and older. So that's who they target with this stuff.
I
So
know,
that's why we have so much in Brunswick County.
Every single aspect of life is scammed. Think about it. I mean, it just
Well, if there's a way to
blows my
twist it
mind.
around, they'll figure it out. I mean, that's generally what they do. And as the older population, especially currently, because most people, say over the age of 55, maybe 60, aren't very computer literate. They can do Facebook and stuff like that and all, but they don't understand how much things can be manipulated now. The spoofing, where they'll take Social Security website and send you an email on their letterhead. That kind of stuff's done all the time now.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous. That's why I tell people, don't respond to the email, go directly to the site and log in.
Yeah, if you get an email and there's a phone number on it, stop what you're doing, Google the name in your browser, and then call that number, because that's going to be most likely the true
Right.
business.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And I know they talk about that, but the scams, but especially the 65 and older that's alone by themselves, and
Yeah.
the con artists or scammers, whatever, con artists calls and they get a conversation and engage the person that doesn't have anybody else to talk to.
I
And
know,
before you're-
because there are a lot of people out there that are by themselves and they're lonesome. So somebody calls them or, reacts to a Facebook notice
Messenger.
or something. I mean, they're lonely. So they just fall right into it. And it's scary.
They want it to be true.
I've gotten several out of the blue messages on Messenger, and it's just, how are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll try to start that conversation, and right away it's a scam.
Yeah.
Or they'll try to say, oh, I meant to get this person. Oh, but who are you? How are you? And so they'll try
Yeah.
to get you to reel you in. And you're right. Somebody's sitting at home alone, they feed right into it.
Well, better than just sitting here watching the news again. And they have a conversation with somebody, they have no clue who they are, where they are,
It's the
what they're up to.
that I received recently is known as X. Just X.
Yeah.
I said, okay, whatever. Oh, my goodness. I love telling them off. I'm terrible. I shouldn't, but I just can't help it.
I like
They
when
get
you
one heck of a message back from me.
Yeah.
when you get the ones that they're pretending to be a government agency, like Social Security or the IRS is a big one. And they call, and I'll sit there and I'll start drilling them, asking them a ton of questions, and then they finally get frustrated and hang up. And they haven't gotten any information from it. They just got a hard time. So,
But on the flip side of that, one thing being in investigations and having narcotics investigations along with having criminal investigations, one thing we rely upon huge is community involvement. And a lot of people think that, oh, they're just saying that as a facade to make everything. No, it is 100% the truth.
Right.
Through my career, I've investigated a lot of major cases. You know, through my supervision time, I've overseen a lot of major cases being investigated. But if you live in your neighborhood and if you do your normal routine every day, you know what's right. You know what
notice
belongs.
what's out of place.
You know what doesn't belong.
Exactly.
And then, so the analogy that I use all the time is, you never know what 400-piece puzzle that I'm building, and I probably have 399 of those pieces. But that last piece to complete my puzzle, you hold.
Right.
And if you don't call me and give me that information, and when I say me, I mean, you know, hypothetically for our entire agency, that right there could solve who knows how much we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
So don't think that you're bothering us. Don't think that you're taking our time when we could be doing something more. You truly don't know what we're doing and where we're at into something. And you may call me up and say at 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw a white car with 2 passengers in it. They were hauling a trailer and had this in the back.
Right.
Well, that's the piece that I needed.
Yep. And you know, a lot of people don't want to give their name.
Fine.
So it's great that you have it. It can be anonymous.
They can do email. They can do
Right.
telephone call. They can
Yes.
do text. I mean, there's so many ways to give us information. And you don't know how many calls I've done in my career where people are like, well, I don't want you to know my name. I don't want you to know my name. And I finally
Exactly.
come back and tell them, have I asked you for it? You know, no, I haven't, because I want what you know.
Exactly.
You know, and
Yeah.
and leave it like that. And that's how we develop what we do. You know, that's how we develop
Right.
rapport. That's how we develop consistency with everybody, is give us that information. Let us work it.
A good portion of our narcotics search warrants are based off of tips that come in from the citizens.
Yep.
A lonely tip that'll come into the website or to the app, it'll get routed down. They'll make a phone call or they'll email them if they leave their email address. And the next thing you know, we're doing a search warrant on a house based off of this one information that was given to us by a citizen.
Wow.
It is so valuable to us, that information.
Well, and that kind of goes back to what I was talking about in a previous show, where know your neighbors. Then you're going to recognize better what's wrong. Your neighbor may have family that comes and visits every once in a while, so seeing a strange vehicle there isn't a problem. Typically, you're going to know what those vehicles are after a few times. And then all of a sudden, you know your neighbor's out of town, and then there's a vehicle there you've never seen before. You're going to question it. Might be a good reason to question it.
Nobody
know,
knows better
then-
who should be or what should be going on in your neighborhood than you do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's my next door neighbor. They bought his wife a new car, and that night I was, hey, I like your new car, and you know, just to confirm, and that was my way of confirming that was their car.
Right.
So if I saw only it show up, I wouldn't be concerned about it.
Tim, when you're patrolling, what do you look for?
Well, when I'm patrolling, what did I look for? The guys,
Overweight
traffic.
semis.
Traffic, I mean, right now, a lot of problems, a lot of fatals and things that's being caused is due to this modernized vehicles. The modernized vehicles got a lot of gadgets and things, and people are distracted by those gadgets, and also
a
the cell phones. They're
shame.
so
Yeah.
distracted. If you ride down the road, you can see people just all over the roadway, or like I said, all those gadgets in the cars, and people drifting out of their lanes, and that's creating a good bit of the fatals that we deal with. Distracted drivers are not staying in their lane, and not staying in their lane could contribute to them having all the latest, greatest technology in there, and
It's not
that's
always
creating
great.
habits. The distractions and the cell phones now, distractions.
Can
really
you
driving.
tell if somebody is inebriated by how they drive?
Well, you can have reasonable suspicion and stop them and figure out if they're inebriated,
so
because
you
they can be
stop
on.
them if you suspect.
I mean, if you got reasonable suspicion, I mean, if they give you a reason, if they weaving
crossing
and
the yellow
crossing
line.
the yellow line, giving you a reason to actually gather your reasonable suspicion to stop them and do a further investigation. I mean, you can't tell. A lot of people. I don't want to say. No, I'm not going that route. But a lot of people, they could either be under the influence of impaired subject, narcotics or whatever. I know most people, when you talk about impaired driver, they're more focused on the alcohol component.
Right.
But now, you're dealing with a lot of different drugs
yes. Yep.
that people have in their system. And some
sometimes
drugs
even
are
prescription.
prescribed.
Yep.
I figure I say some drugs are prescribed, but a lot of times on that label, they tell you don't drive.
Right.
So can I tell if they're inebriated? Not really, because there's a lot of different things that before you get in that car that could be causing them to do that. So you got to
Can
actually.
you ask them, or can you not really demand, but can you tell them they have to take a test?
You can ask them to take a test, but
Really?
they don't. They can
But
refuse.
they can refuse?
Yeah, they can refuse. But if you still develop an opinion that you still believe that they're impaired, you can. When they refuse, you can still take them and arrest them and take them down if you think they're still impaired, even if
And
they
better
refuse the
be,
test.
huh? Or you get in trouble?
No, I mean, if you can articulate all law enforcement about, when any situation, no situation is the same. So you as the officer got to be able to articulate why you did what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can articulate and present your case where a reasonable person would see where you're going with that, then you'll probably be fine.
The guy
But
falls down 3 times
yeah.
before he gets to the back of the
There's
car.
multiple. Aside from the tests, and let's say you've got the driving. Let's say he's left a center 3 times. Let's say he's, variable speed. Let's say he's late to accelerate after a red light or a green light or whatever, and you've got the drive and you get on the side of the road. There are things that the body does when it's under the influence that they cannot control. So while they may refuse a test, there are a lot of clues that we look for that you can't control,
Such as?
like your speech. If you're under the influence, you're going to slur your speech. If you're under the influence, depending on what it is, you're going to have red eyes or glassy eyes. Your pupils do things depending on what you're on. There are so many different things that can lead you. Unsteady on his feet. You said falling down. Yeah, if he falls down 3 times, should be driving.
Oh, my God.
So that's
Pretty good
We
indication.
have those clues that we use as evidence, even if they refuse the test. Now, once you get to a certain point, then you can do a blood test, which they can't refuse. So there's things. There's ways around the initial test. You've got to, like the captain said, you've got to form your opinion, and then you take it from
And
there.
basically
they
be able to
cannot
back it up.
refuse a blood test?
We can
they
get a search
can
warrant to take your blood if you refuse a blood test.
Oh, my goodness, I didn't know
A
that.
breathalyzer.
You can refuse, and if you're involved in a death case, it's mandatory that you give the blood, and that's where you'll get the warrant. And like you said, you don't need those tests. Why give somebody a test if they're falling all over, stumbling?
Sure.
Why
When it's
you're
so
gonna
obvious,
you're gonna put them in
yes.
harm's way that
Right.
they're potentially going to harm themselves. So it's no need to do that test out there if they're falling.
Well, it's funny because if I get behind someone and they're all over the place, which has happened a lot lately, I'm undecided. Are they on their cell phone, or are they under the influence, or what the heck is going on? Because there are so many variables now. You don't know. If they're texting, they're going to be all over the place because they can't pay attention to the road if they're texting.
Which is
So
just as dangerous.
Yeah.
what Captain Beck said, he had 399 pieces of that puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So you got the 400 piece, right? So if you're unsure, pick the phone up, call.
Yeah. True.
Well, and
True.
one thing I know you're talking about the newer vehicles and all the gadgets and everything in them. My truck, it's 24. It's got collision avoidance. I travel back and forth 87 between here and Fayetteville. And I have actually set it on that and let go to see how it handled the lines and all. And it was back and forth. It never crossed the lines, but it's banking from one side to the other constantly.
And unfortunately, on that note, we have to pay some bills.
Sorry.
Please stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, Attorney at Law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back, folks, to All Things Brunswick. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time for this episode. I lost track of time because these guys are so interesting. But we are going to have them back again. I just want to one more time thank Captain Jeff Beck from the Sheriff's Office and Captain Tim Daniels from the Highway Patrol, and, of course, our Sheriff, Brian Chisholm. Thank you so much, guys, for coming and offering all the great information that you had. And it's been a wonderful conversation. Todd, thank you, and I hope you stay well because I need you. So please go online, folks, and offer your comments about the show. Let us know what you'd like to see. We have a Facebook page entitled All Things Brunswick. You can watch us every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. We live stream on several different entities.
Like and
YouTube.
subscribe on YouTube.
Yep, YouTube and Facebook and, Instagram, everything. Just reach out to us. We'd like to see you. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
We wish you all well, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you, folks, and come back to All Things Brunswick.